think we'll get awesome. All right, so welcome everybody to our high school outreach second event. It's our university and scholarships application night. Um, my name is Brooke. I'm one of the co-coordinators for the high school outreach program this year, along with Andrea, who you've also been hearing speak in the last few minutes. So we're really excited and happy to have you all here joining us tonight. And we're just going to get started going over what's going on tonight. Awesome. So yeah, just a little quick intro on tonight's agenda. So we're just going to talk about quickly a couple of our upcoming events. Then we're going to go into talking about university applications, things about the process before applying, as well as the application process itself. And then we're also going to talk about scholarship applications tonight as well. So some tips about writing essays, finding references, as well as we're going to brief into, we're making kind of over the course of the year, we're going to make a master scholarship list just for reference for everybody that's going to be on the website. Awesome. So yeah, so then the other upcoming event, we have one more event left this semester. It's happening on November 24th, the same time as it is tonight, 7 to 8 p.m. It's going to be kind of just a general STEM or university Q&A. We might do a little bit of speed mentoring as well to have participants come on and join and talk to all of the mentors that we have helping us with the high school outreach program. And then as well, I'd like to just reiterate and let people know we do have our high school outreach website that has been live now. It's really awesome. It's a great resource to connect with all of our mentors. It has a discussion forum to post questions, connect with other individuals in the community in the STEM program, as well as that's where all of our events tabs are linked. So you can access the recordings of the past events we have, just in case you want to go back on some information or if you missed anything, that resource is there for you as well. So definitely check that out if you get an opportunity to, and as well share it to any of your friends or family or staff members you know in the community that would really benefit from it. It's a great resource for all things STEM. All right, so now we're going to get into going with our university application. So over the next little bit, you're going to be hearing some of our volunteers speak. They've put together this awesome presentation on some university application tips and tricks.
Hi, so I'm Sarah, and I'm going to start off with the university applications part. So in terms of where you should apply, in my experience, I went to a university fair in grade 11. I was a bit eager, and I was interested in figuring out what I wanted to do. So I got a bunch of brochures, and just for like any school I could possibly think of going. And what I did might not work for everyone, but it worked for me, and it helped me organize my thoughts in terms of where I wanted to go. So I looked through all the brochures and I narrowed down the number of schools. So depending on if they had the program I was interested in, extracurriculars, the location, stuff like that. And once I had a few left, I felt good. I felt good about it. I looked through more carefully for like stuff like an exchange program, which is something I'm interested in, or residence, meal plans, like how I could get home in terms of transit or how long of a drive it is, costs of tuition, school specific scholarships, and there's many more things, but that's definitely for your own research if you'd like. And I went through those books and I annotated them with sticky notes. And after that, I talked it through with my parents to see what their thoughts were on what I had figured out. And that really helped me get all my stuff together. And I found my top 3 schools from that. And it really helped me know more about the schools I'd be applying to and what going there would be like more realistically than I had thought of before. So also check out options for open houses. I didn't get the chance to do any in-person open houses last year, but some schools had virtual fairs or online tours for prospective students. So for example, like if you go on the Queen's page right now, they have some different options for like virtual stuff that they set up last year. And they're also offering in-person stuff this year because I've seen some groups touring on campus, just big groups of students anyway. And the in-person ones are really great because you get to actually go to the school and see if it's a place you want to live there for the next 4 years and get a feel for it. Yeah, so that's a good way to go. Um, after also something else I did is I watched a lot of YouTube videos. So after I applied, I wanted some different opinions on the schools I applied to. So I watched a bunch of videos by like students who went there based on like pros and cons, why they chose it, their thoughts on different aspects of the schools. Um, and there's no universal experience of a school because everyone's different, but it definitely gave me some personal experiences and information to go off of that wasn't just like marketing from the universities. I'm trying to get people to go there. So definitely take that with a grain of salt, but I think it was very helpful for me. Um, and the last thing I'll say is talk to your family and friends because if they've gone through this process, they had to decide somehow. So they can give you some advice that way. And also, if you have friends or siblings who are older and go to schools you're interested in, definitely talk to them about it, ask them questions. They're a great resource and they have some like current knowledge based on the different places. So anyway, there you go. That's me.
Hi, I'm Maya, and I'll be talking about um, what you should be applying to. So applying is just the very beginning of the process. This does not mean you're locked into anything. I know personally, I had no idea what I wanted to do, and I was between programs until the very last second. Um, so if you were like me and you don't know what you wanted to do, OUAC, which is what you're going to be applying through, has an initial cost that you have to pay, which includes multiple applications. So this is a great way that if you want to and have diverse interests, you can apply to multiple different programs and express further interest. So also I know, depending how the layout of your school works, if it's semestered or you're not taking a course right now, but you feel like it could be an interest and you're taking it later in the year, this being able to apply to different things could help keep that option open as you explore those interests. Another thing, and the advice I got most frequently, if you're in this position, is to consider something general. So this will allow you to continue to explore your interests throughout university. There's no need to go into something super specific. All programs are good programs and can take you a lot of different ways within them. Um, um, After applying to determine which program to choose, pros and cons lists are a great tool to lay out your thoughts. And a step further, an effective method I found is to make a weighted pros and cons list, where in addition to listing the benefits and drawbacks for an overall school or program, you rank each of these factors on how important they are to you. So as an example for me, I think the rating system was 1 to 3 points, where 3 is the most important, it has the most weight, and 1 is less. So I think a pro that I rated 3 points, I'm in engineering, was the intense community feel of the Queen's engineering program. Whereas a con that was just 1 point towards the general school would be the cold winters. So this can help direct your decision. And then that being said, if you've always known what you want to do, and you know what you want to pursue, don't be scared to just pursue that. I know a big thing I heard all throughout high school is like, don't close doors, and like keeping your doors open. And this is something that led a lot of people, like, stigma around not taking certain classes because you're closing doors. But realistically, if you know what you want to do, take the route to get you there, and that will ultimately make your life easier and lead you to the most happiness. Yeah.
Okay, I'll read this slide because I'm not sure who was in charge of this one, but that's okay. So next we're going to talk about how do I apply. So there's a lot of different ways to go about applying. It really sometimes depends on whether you're applying to a school in province versus out of province. The first big thing that you really need to make sure you do is check that you have the prerequisites for the certain programs you're applying to. That is really key, because when you go to apply, if you don't have some of the prerequisites, if you go to apply, you might not be able to get into the program, or may have some difficulties actually submitting your application process if you don't have some of the requirements, which could be a bit of a letdown later on. So it's really important that before you apply to anything, make sure you check your requirements. And that way, if you're missing one, if you check early, you can maybe try and switch into a course that fulfills that requirement in your second semester. That way, by the time you are finished your academic year and heading off to university, you'll have all the requirements that you need for it. The next good point to be aware of is the cost of application. So each school does have a certain cost to apply per programs, as well as it is usually non-refundable when you do apply. So prime example for when you're applying through OUAC, which is for Ontario, or OUAC, which is for the Ontario schools, there is an original charge of $150, and that gets you 3 applications to the schools of your choices. And then after that, it's another $50 for every application. So that's something to keep in mind as well when you are applying, is if cost is a bit of a concern or something for you, maybe it's good to be planned out and prepared for that, so you know you're either using your money wisely towards the programs you are really interested in the most, or if you have the ability to apply to more, just to keep aware that there is that extra charge sometimes when you're submitting an extra application for different programs. As well, some programs do have optional, like, supplementary applications. So that might have to be filled out not on OUAC, but through the university portals themselves, or they send you links or things like that where you have to fill out the supplementary applications. At Queen's, all of us volunteers would know that there's like a supplementary essay that you have to fill out. So there's things like that that are not only included with your original application, but they have to be completed as well for it to be fulfilled. And then also just to know where your resources are. So for Ontario schools, you apply through OUAC, you get probably around this time of year, I'm not sure if they've been sent out yet, but you get your specialized PIN number, which allows you to log on, and it's your personalized, basically, ID that you use to send out all of your applications, and it's linked to your account. So your school will send out your transcripts to all those schools that way. And as well, it's just a good resource for everything in terms of applying. So they have a great like FAQ page that tells you about all the deadlines, also kind of step-by-step walks you through the process of applying, or if you run into any technical difficulties or things like when it comes to accepting that you should be aware of. It's a really great page to check out. They've got a ton of information. One of the key points I learned when I was on there is this was especially for me when I was applying, you can only apply to 3 different programs at one school. So that's the thing. So if you found a school that you love and you're not maybe exactly sure on the program you want to pick to apply at that school, maybe, again, as the other girls have said, make a pros and cons list, because you can only apply to a maximum of 3 programs at each school. So that's just another good tip that I realized when I was applying. Another key point of how you're applying. So out of province schools run a little bit differently through applications. So there's not a special portal necessarily that links them all together like OUAC. So sometimes you will either have to go directly through the university's website itself. And so it's really important that you check those out, because sometimes you will be required to submit a copy of your high school transcript to the university itself, or you might need to get your guidance counselor to help you out with that. So it's really important that when you are deciding to apply to potentially an out of province university, that you make sure you're checking off all the boxes and you're having everything submitted properly, because it's not as centralized like OUAC is for Ontario schools. So that's something just to keep in mind.
Okay, so I'll go over when should I apply. So a lot of dates I'm going to give you are from like personal experience or people I know from high school. So first, when should I apply? Well, October to January. That's like generally the time for the next fall. So Um, in general, I'd say the most people I know applied around mid to late November. So around this time up to the winter holidays, like once you get your 2 weeks off, use that time to apply. I think that's like a pretty reasonable time range. Of course, and that's before the deadline of January the 13th, 2022. And if for early application, early acceptances, yeah, I'd say I'm not sure if you're planning on applying for the 2022 or 2023, but some schools, they've already closed their early applications, or like I know U of T, it was done on the 7th of November. So at this point, it will be general acceptances at this point. So again, I'm not sure whether you're applying for 2022 or 2023, but you should try to figure out around now or this time of year when you want to apply, so you can get those applications in. And another point is, before you get once you apply through OUAC, the schools will send you their own an account for you to apply on through their portal. So OUAC is simply just like a network, or not a network, I'd say just a place for high schools and universities to send transcripts back and forth. Once you actually apply, you will get a separate email from the school itself, and will connect to their own portal. And then you should make that account as soon as possible. Okay, so I think we went over. Okay, it does. I didn't apply early. I don't know how many of you applied early, but I guess it will take a lot of weight off your shoulders if you can get an early acceptance. I do know one girl who went to McGill and she got accepted in December, and another girl who got accepted to York in December. So obviously, at that point, you don't really have to think about getting accepted. So that's maybe a reason why you'd want to apply for early acceptance. And if you apply to different programs, now you have a lot more time to decide which one you want to choose. And you have more time to plan for everything. So when to expect acceptances. So yeah, as I mentioned, early acceptances happen as early as December, while some schools, the latest point would be around late May. And remember, the final decision is made by June 1st. So if you want to know in general what time universities send out acceptances, I'd say start late January would be the time where like regular acceptances start being sent out. So late January, and then February, all through February, March. At least for people I know, that's around the time where they got accepted to the school they wanted to go to. Of course, there's specialized programs, like I know say health science at McMaster, or like engineering at Waterloo. A lot of those programs are a lot more competitive, so they will send their acceptances out a lot later. I've heard stories of like May the 25th. And so if you do plan to apply to those programs that may be more competitive, you might expect to wait a little longer to get an answer. And then final decisions should be made by June 1st. At that point, I don't think you can change anything. You can accept your offer earlier. And I do think if you do accept it, you will accept on OUAC. It seems like a lot of people pronounce it differently. We were all told to call it OUAC. You can, that's where you will accept your offer on OUAC, and you can change your decision, I think, before, or maybe not, but I only think by June 1st it will be locked in, but you can change your decision. Like if you accept, I'm not sure. For the rest of you, did you know if you can, if you go on OUAC and you accept an offer, you can change it to another offer before the deadline? I think I read that and somewhere, but I never touched it. I don't know.
I believe you can. I think it's just sometimes some schools, if you do, once you do accept, that may kind of send out like you declines from other schools. So then you won't be that maybe position that you, if you were offered from a spot from other schools, by accepting that kind of automatically declines your offer from those other schools. So it might take away your position. So it just depends. Sometimes you may have to reach back out. It depends, I believe, on the school. But if you do accept, it will sometimes automatically decline your offers to other schools. So then those positions that you had turned down would be offered up to other students that are on wait lists. So I think it kind of just depends, but it's something definitely to keep in mind.
Yeah.
In addition, I know people at some schools who initially did accept something at, for example, at Dalhousie or at McGill, and they'd had to put an initial deposit down. So this didn't take their applications out from other schools, but then they later did choose other schools to apply to. So they did lose this deposit. So there's always risks when accepting.
Yeah. So I think I covered, okay, when you should apply around late fall up to winter break, I'd say winter break's your best time because you have this time to yourself. And then acceptances will start if you apply earlier, December up to, and then February is when they start, and then late May last offers, and then June 1st you should accept your offer. Yeah, I think that's it.
I just quickly wanted to add on to what Candace said. Early acceptance I found was super, super helpful. Applying to universities can be a little bit stressful, especially for when you're in grade 12. So I found that having that early acceptance, that all that extra time just really helped alleviate some of that anxiety that I was feeling about just like the pressure of like what kind of school to pick, what program to pick. You just had a lot more time to make your decision. But yeah, Candace covered it.
Does anyone have any questions about timing? I feel like timing is kind of the one I was most worried about when I was in high school. Okay.
All right, I didn't mean to go into the next slide so soon, but definitely if anyone has any questions about anything like university application related, whether that be like where to apply, when, how to apply, anything like that, I'll wait a couple minutes just to give some people some time. If you'd like to put a question into the chat or in the Q&A button, please feel free. We'd love to answer any questions you have. So I'll just give participants a couple minutes if you do. Okay, so I don't see any questions right now, at least on my end, but please feel free to send any questions you have at any time, even if it's when one of us is presenting, because we can always go back to it later. And it can be any question, or if you want to send it privately, that's totally okay too. And so now we're going to move on to scholarship applications. So starting off with types of scholarships, there's so many different types that you could apply for. These could range from academic to athletic ones, social, and so many more. So for example, quite a few scholarships will ask for a specific type of academic achievement. So maybe if you have a certain grade point percentage, that will be like a criteria that they'll have. I know that there's a ton of different scholarships if you played sports in high school. So they could be from your school district for if you played a sport with them, or even in like your hometown's sports league. There's a lot of scholarships also for that. For social ones, it could be if you are in a type of club. So for example, in high school, I was in a club called Interact, which was associated with the Rotary Club, which is like a nonprofit organization in my town. And for students, they had scholarships. So there's a ton of different scholarships for all types of things. At the bottom there, Ali put down that fun fact, there's a scholarship you can apply to if you're a woman over 5 foot tall. So there really is no bounds to types of scholarships you can apply for. Maybe if you don't have the highest grade point average, that is totally okay. That doesn't mean you won't get any, because there's so many and they all have different criteria. So maybe you're not super strong academically, but you're a really involved athlete, or you're super involved in your school with clubs and just a part of a lot of different extracurriculars. So don't count anything out and definitely do your research. Speaking of research, there are so many different resources that you can go to that contain different scholarship opportunities. So Scholarship Canada is a great resource. They have a lot of different ones listed there. Additionally, at the end of the presentation, I'll send a link in the chat to an Excel or to a Sheets document that the high school outreach team has started putting together with some scholarships that we know of. And we're going to continue to add to this throughout the year. So definitely bookmark it and maybe check in every few weeks, because we'll definitely keep trying to update it with different scholarships that we know of, the different criteria for them, and any due dates for applications. And honestly, if you go on Google, there are so many different websites that you can find. Just make sure you specify grade 12 scholarships, or maybe if you're a dancer, you can type in scholarships for graduating students, dance related. You can kind of specify to what you're in. I just saw a question, so I'll just quickly open that up. Someone said, would being a part of something like student council be considered or qualify for a social scholarship? Definitely. Student council, it's a really great opportunity for a student to showcase like leadership skills, communication, teamwork. So maybe not specifically being on student council itself, but you gain a lot of amazing skills out of being on student council that you could put onto a resume or in a scholarship application. So for example, I applied to one in high school, which I applied to a scholarship which asked me to talk about my leadership experience. And being the vice president of my school's student council, I talked about leading meetings, kind of managing teams, putting together projects. So student council could definitely be considered useful for like a social type of scholarship. And yeah, it's a definitely great experience to have. And then I just got another question that said, can you get scholarships for having a lot of volunteer hours? Maybe I'll ask one of the high school outreach volunteers to answer that, if someone would like to do that right now. Maybe, I'm just gonna see who's on the call. Somebody who hasn't spoken a lot, maybe Mia, would you like to answer that, just so we can get a bit of different person talking?
I'm actually not 100% sure about the volunteer hours, but I know like certain volunteer opportunities probably can give you some skills, provide you with some skills that you can use to apply for your resume, but I'm not sure about specific volunteer hours, like specifically.
That's totally okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm not sure if there's some, oh, sorry,
Sorry.
Sarah.
I'll just mention quickly, I know when I was looking at a bunch of scholarships, another interesting website is scholartree.ca or some .com maybe. A lot of them were like looking for community service or volunteer. So if you have a lot of experience with that, it'll definitely give you something to write about in essays or something like that. I know at my school, they put out like a bunch of community scholarships and like on a big sheet for all of us to like check through. So, and I think a lot of those had to do with volunteering too. So you can definitely find something to do with those hours. Yeah.
Also, I can just speak on that a little bit. Yeah, I know definitely you absolutely can get scholarships based on volunteer hours. One of my good friends and my neighbor, she received a scholarship for having, she had an enormous amount of volunteer hours. So if that's something you're involved in, it's amazing, first of all. And second of all, there are a bunch of scholarships out there that that is like the main criteria, is having so many volunteer hours or having volunteer hours in specific sectors, working with homeless or youth in need, things like that. As well, always check out, there are scholarships within your high schools themselves. So I know one of my friends, she received a scholarship at graduation from the school, like our high school, based on the fact that she had the most volunteer hours out of our graduating class. So that's, I don't know if that's the same at every single school, but I know at least at my high school, that was a scholarship that was given by excuse me, by our high school. So it's definitely worth checking out. So if you've got a ton, that is amazing, and that is certainly something you can look into.
Awesome. Yeah, and definitely like Sarah said, even if there isn't a specific scholarship you found that has like if it's the most hours that you have, by having so many hours, you get a lot out of those experiences. So whether that's like interpersonal skills or something like that, what you get out of it, apart from the hours too, is a really big portion of what you can talk about in your application. So the more volunteering you can do, the better for your community and also for yourself as well. Yeah, so moving on with the slide, websites like Scholarship Canada, they can help you narrow down your search depending on what type of scholarship you're looking for and the type of criteria that would fit kind of who you are. And so definitely check out that website. And then Sarah mentioned Scholar Tree as well. And once we share the sheets list with you, that one will have some scholarships as well, which we'll continue to add to as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Emily, and today I'll be talking to you about personal statements and essays, and then I've also kind of grouped those short answer style questions that you might see on scholarship applications in with this as well, because sometimes it is hard to kind of write about ourselves and talk about ourselves, and so this is one of the common ways that scholarship committees can get you to kind of differentiate yourself just above and beyond your resumes. So I thought I'd talk about it tonight. But essentially, these questions are an opportunity for you to elaborate on your accomplishments and extracurricular activities in order to set yourself apart from applicants. So this is your chance to really kind of shine or put yourself above others, or differentiate yourself, rather in addition to what's listed on your resume. So giving you a chance to connect with your reader and let them know kind of, what is this one bullet point on your resume and why is it significant? So some tips for these statements and essays are to share your story. So again, connecting with the reader, telling them, why was this experience important to you? Why do you want to attend this school? Why are you interested in the sciences? Kind of what's your origin story essentially with this one. The next is to not just list items on your resume. So it kind of talks about that briefly, but this is where not bullet point lists. You want to kind of full sentence answer what is the so what of those experiences for both you and your community. The next is to explain the significance of your work and the contributions you made to your academic and non-academic community. So as we've discussed tonight, your experiences and what you can put on these applications don't just have to be academic, they can be in the form of community service and things like that as well. Share who you are as a person. So not just as a student, but there's lots of good students applying. So what makes you unique? Elaborate on how these experiences shaped you as a leader or helped you grow as a person. So with this is a key one, because what committees sometimes would like to see, and especially if you run into a personal leadership statement, this is where they want to see, okay, so what have you done so far? What are you doing currently? And how do you plan to continue growing as a person? And how do you plan to continue kind of moving forward and using those experiences to then kind of set you up for future success, and kind of what your plan is for that. Don't worry about being humble. Use these as an opportunity to highlight your greatest skills, achievements, goals, hardships, or challenges that you've overcome and more. And then also describe how you plan to continue to build upon your work, which I've kind of talked about as well. But again, telling them your story, where you've been, where you're going, and how you're going to accomplish that. And so then one other thing I'll leave you with before I end off is just a quick tip, is that when you're doing these applications, definitely check out the application website, because sometimes they might actually give you guidance on how to write a personal statement or essay or these short answer style questions. Because as I said, they're a little bit different style of writing than you may be used to. And then also what I would recommend is going to, for example, like the Queen's University Queen's University has resources available. Many universities have those resources available as well in terms of, how do you write this personal statement? They might even have examples for you to follow, things like that. So definitely look out for those resources as you go through this process. And thank you for listening.
Thanks, Emily. Sorry, just gonna say something quickly before I go to the next slide. I thought that her point about sharing who you are as a person, not just as a student, and making what makes you unique is a really good point, because I know when I was applying to some scholarships, I was having some imposter syndrome because I didn't have like a lot of like coding experience, and I saw people winning these scholarships who were building robots and who did amazing internships even in high school, and it really stressed me out because I thought, oh, there's no way I can get those. Like I don't really have those skills, or I don't have access to this type of opportunities. And I was able to get some scholarships just because I talked about what made me unique. And that doesn't have to be something super crazy that like not many people can say they do, but if it's something that makes you unique and you can tell that you're really passionate about, that really goes a long way. So don't kind of sell yourself short. Definitely talk about your passions, and don't be afraid to showcase who you are in your applications.
Okay, I'll go over this one as well. So as the girls have talked about a little bit already, scholarships range from being able to complete like a sport activity or just academic things to the craziest things. As they said, the fun fact, being over 6 feet tall, you can apply for a scholarship. So scholarships can be pretty much about anything, and they will ask you whatever they want. Sometimes the questions can be very open-ended, kind of leaving it up to you to what path you're going to talk about, or they might be very specific, asking for a specific example per se of a volunteer opportunity or an academic event or situation you've been in. But these questions can range from creative abilities to your past experiences, your goals in life, things like that, which the girls have already touched on a little bit. But some common questions, we've got them listed on the slides here, can be like, describe your most significant volunteer contributions. What did you do? How did it affect you or others? A time you were challenged, going outside your comfort zone. What did you learn? So that's a big question they ask a lot, or talking about life lessons or overcoming challenges. How did you do it? What did you learn? A time you took initiative to address an unmet need, and what was its impact? Your long-term goals and aspirations, what's important to you and why. So things again like your passions or things that make you you. Why should you win the scholarship? Some scholarships also like to ask that a lot. So they want to know what makes you kind of special from everybody else. So it's going about those things that are going to make you stand out or are very unique to you, as Andrea had said already. Describe your most meaningful leadership experience. That's another great one. And then another thing is what appeals to you most about that school, that program, or that scholarship. And then also another one that's really great. A lot of scholarships are helping people who are in financial need or supporting themselves at school. So they ask about how that scholarship will make a difference for you in your life, if it's financial related, or just in terms of being able to access university or access educational resources. Things like that are really important to talk about as well, if that applies to you. So that's just something to note on as well.
So now we're going to talk a bit about references and kind of who you should look for and some tips for going about getting references. So first off, if possible, you should choose someone who knows you very well. not someone who's a family member, but potentially someone who is your teacher, your employer, your volunteer supervisor, or your coach. For example, like if you play sports, your like soccer coach, your dance teacher. It could be someone who if you volunteer with a group in your community, maybe like an organization leader, for example, or if you're on student council, you might have a teacher who supervises student council, and they would see you kind of like in action a lot. So you could definitely ask them, and then if you know you pretty well, or your teachers. Second off, choose references who know you from different parts of life. So for example, when I was applying to one scholarship, I needed 2 references, and I chose one of them to be my teacher who knew me very well academically. They knew how I performed academically. They saw me in the classroom every single day. So they kind of saw who I was in a school setting and in a school environment with my peers. And then for my second reference, I chose my choir director. So she knew me for a long time. She saw me in an environment where I was completely not related to academics at all, but she saw how I interacted with my peers around me. She saw my passion for music, and they knew me from 2 completely different parts of my life. But that's great for when you're applying to a scholarship, because it really helps the scholarship committee be able to see all parts of you. So if possible, try to get references from different parts of your life. And second or third, get a reference early if possible, or ask in advance, especially if you know when a scholarship application deadline is. For example, let's say there's one coming up in a month. You might think, oh, I have a month, like I'll totally be okay, but definitely ask whoever you plan to ask for reference as soon as possible. Who knows if something can happen in their life that can come up and they might not be able to get it to you. Or sometimes, for example, if it's a teacher, teachers are very busy, and the more time that you can give them to complete it, the better, especially if maybe they write one for you and maybe there's an error in it, or they said something about you, or like they got a fact wrong about you that you wouldn't be able to submit because like they said that you did a certain thing, like a certain sport for a certain amount of years that you didn't, so you wouldn't be able to submit that, so that you can ask them to re-edit it. So make sure to just ask them as early as you can, and that way they can give you a really professional and appropriate reference letter that fits the type of application you're working on. And another great tip is to let your reference know what you would like to be highlighted. So for example, the scholarship that you're applying for could be for someone who's very gifted academically. So make sure that you let them know if they could highlight your academic skills, how you perform, how you like do well on labs in the classroom, how you're really engaged in learning and you're really passionate about learning more about a certain topic. Maybe if it's for a student, a scholarship that's focused on leadership, be sure to ask them to highlight your leadership skills, how you interact with everyone around you, how you lead teams, your leadership style. Make sure they know what kind of criteria this scholarship is looking for so that they can really cater the letter towards that, to really be an extra boost that advocates for why you should win that scholarship. And then lastly, please always take the time to thank your reference for their time and their effort into making a letter. Especially teachers, they do a lot of work, and for them to take the time and really help you, it's worth a lot. So for anyone that you ask, make sure to thank them and just let them know you're grateful for that. And then going off of what activities and extracurriculars you should list, you could put down any type of activity or extracurricular that you've done in the past. This could be dance, sports, music, volunteer work, paid employment, school groups or school clubs and group projects. Maybe if it's asking for certain skills that you've gained. And if you're connected to one of your references through a specific type of activity, make sure to list that activity. So if it's like your basketball coach, make sure that you put down basketball kind of so that they align and that they see you in that role. As well, if you're only allowed to list a certain number of extracurriculars, make sure you pick the most relevant extracurriculars for the scholarship. So if you're applying for one that wants to see that you're involved in your community, make sure that you put down those groups such as school clubs you're part of, any volunteering you do in the community, or any type of activity where you've been involved with helping your community. For example, if you have 5 different activities, you can only put down 3 Maybe you don't have to put down like a sports one, or you don't have to put down like a school academic project that you worked on if the scholarship is more focused on volunteer hours or community involvement. So just make sure to cater your application to what they're asking for, and so that they can kind of see all your experience and how it relates to their ideal applicant.
Hi guys, my name is Haley, and I thought I would just talk to you guys a little bit about dealing with rejection. So the scholarship application process is really stressful and overwhelming. Even like from personal experience, I was like pretty stressed out throughout it, especially if you're trying to apply to a lot of them. And I thought I would just emphasize that the scholarship application process is not just about winning the money. It's really easy to pressure yourself after hearing like success stories of other people and like be like, oh, I need to win this money. But the whole process is about self-growth and about personal development and reflection, because throughout writing all these applications and all these things about what like leadership opportunities you've had, you get an opportunity to reflect on what you've done over the past years of your leadership opportunities. And it's not, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to emphasize that it's not about the money. And I want to just let you guys know that rejection is going to happen, and that's something you sort of have to accept like going into that, but you just have to keep an optimistic mindset and continue to put yourself out there and continue to apply to all the scholarships that you find, because the more scholarships you apply to, the greater chance you have of winning, and the process takes a lot of determination. So don't let yourself get discouraged, especially if your friends are winning some and you aren't. Just don't get discouraged, and keep trying your best. And yeah, I wish you all the best of luck in your scholarship journey.
Just some last general tips. Well, before I go into the slide, does anyone have any questions or anything like that about scholarship applications? Anything to do with scholarships? Okay, just while I go through the last slide, if you do have any, feel free to put them in the chat. Just for some last general tips that kind of apply to both university and scholarship applications, make sure to utilize your guidance counselors if you have some at your school, as well as your teachers for advice. This could be asking them if they know of any scholarships that they are aware of. This could be asking them for advice about what kind of programs to apply for. Maybe they can give you some direction to websites such as Career Cruising websites to kind of see what you could potentially pursue in university. This could be, they could let you know about different career fairs that are happening. Maybe they have some brochures of their own for universities. Definitely take advantage of them being there for you. They want to help you and they want to help you succeed. So don't be afraid to go make an appointment with them or drop in to just ask them for their advice and for any help that they can give you. Another really great tip is to reach out to current students at the schools or in the programs that you're interested in to hear their experience. An even better way is to reach out to graduates from your high school who went to schools or programs you're interested in. Is this way you have an immediate connection? So you kind of say, hi, my name is, for me, hi, my name is Andrea. I went to the same school as you and I saw that you're in you won this scholarship and I'm super interested in applying. Could you give me any tips, or could you let me know what were some things you kind of highlighted? I did that, I know, for one of my scholarships. There was a girl who won one from my school and I asked her, I said, is there any tips that you have for me? And she was super happy to help me. So 99.9% of the time, I promise people will be so happy to help you. I reached out to some completely random girls who went to Queens when I was in grade 12, asking them if they liked engineering and what was their experience here. And they were so nice and so willing to answer my questions. So please do not feel afraid to reach out to anyone, whether they're past students of your high school or maybe you see some like university pages, some clubs you're interested in, you find people through there, through LinkedIn. Everyone is really if they have the chance, a lot of people love to give back and kind of help students because everyone has been in that position. So definitely don't be afraid to reach out. And then also there's occasionally workers in designated roles at most universities that like to answer questions from prospective students. They want you to come to their schools. So don't be afraid to reach out to these workers as well. They would love to answer your questions, whether that be about the campus life at the school or different clubs that are at the school, programs, even scholarships that the school offers. Please don't be afraid to reach out to them. Whether it's workers, students, or even past alumni of the school, people love to help out and give advice. So don't be afraid to do that. I just want to give this chance. I know we're getting really close to 8 p.m., but if any volunteers have any last general tips that they'd like to give participants, whether that be for university scholarship applications, feel free to chime in now before we just go to our last slide.
I'll just say something really quickly. When it comes to like applications after the fact, when you're waiting, the waiting is the worst part. Because I know I didn't hear from Queens until May 5th, which is like cutting it close, but it was my top program and I was really excited when I got the answer. But waiting for it, oh my goodness, a lot.
I guess maybe also one thing I would just say as well, I know for me, I had some programs that I was really interested in. But a big part of going to university for me was the atmosphere of the university itself. So I know right now it has been a bit of a difficult time to do that, like university tours and stuff like that with COVID and restrictions. But I believe things have started to open up now, or even if you're just able to go physically be on campus yourself, maybe not scheduling a proper university tour, but if it's close enough to you that you're able to like take a day and make a trip out of it and go check a place out, that's something I would always recommend, is go check it out in person, get that experience of what it's going to be like there. Because for me, that was something that helped me rule out some schools right away, was if I went to the campus and I was missing that, like, this is it feeling, that I want this place to be my home. I know I'm going to be happy here, because you are going to be probably spending the next 4 or 5 years there. So it is really crucial that you're going to be doing something that's going to make you the happiest and you're going to enjoy it the most there. So that's another tip I would just like to emphasize, is for me that it worked a lot, is actually physically get out there, check the schools out, check the programs out, because sometimes you just get that like feeling in your gut when you're there. I know I had it when I came to Queens. I just, like, when I was walking around campus, I was like, this is where I want to be. So that's something I definitely emphasize, is go do those tours. They really, if university life is a big thing for you, those like in-person tours or checking out those campuses can, or even just the city in general where the school is, can kind of be a make or break thing for you, because it's where you're going to be spending a lot of your time, which is going to be really important for you. So I would definitely emphasize that.
Awesome. It looks like we have a question in the chat. Someone asked, do you have any advice for combating application/admission anxiety? I'll start off with an answer. I definitely had a lot of anxiety about applications and admission. Like, am I going to get into the programs that I want? Am I going to receive these scholarships? And I found that for me personally, it's going to be different for every person, but just talking with my friends and my family about it, just kind of like voicing my like stressors or some things like that. But at the same time, not to ignore it completely, but also make sure to make time for yourself where you're not just where you just don't put scholarships and put applications to the side for a moment. So go hang out with your friends, but don't talk about scholarships, don't talk about applications. Still make sure to be like a normal student as much as you can. And especially if you're in grade 12, really enjoy that last year, because you may be moving away from your friends, or people just may be moving away from each other. So definitely when you're feeling a lot of stress, talk to your family, or your friends, voice your just like your feelings, but also make sure to take time for yourself as a student first. And if that means you're applying to less schools than you originally thought, if you have to cut down on one, or if you decide not to apply to as many scholarships, that's totally okay. Sometimes maybe you thought you wanted to do early acceptance, but it's just really overwhelming. Maybe if there's one school that you're really interested in, try to do early acceptance for that school, but then don't stress too much about getting the rest of the school's early acceptance. Definitely prioritize yourself first. And yeah, does anyone else have any advice for that?
Yeah, I have a little bit. Just my big thing, I had a lot of anxiety when I was applying, but I think the biggest thing to remember is that everything's going to be okay. Like if you might not get into your number one choice, and that's okay. Like you still have options, even if you don't get into any of the schools you wanted to. You can, there's still so many options for you. You could take a gap year, you could take another, I know, I'm not sure, I'm pretty sure most high schools do this, but I know you can take another year of high school. Like you have so many options. If you don't get into your number one program, it's okay. You'll be okay, and it's not the end of the world. So I think that's just a big thing. That was always my anxiety. I was like, oh, what's gonna happen if I don't get in where I want? It's not a big deal. You have so many more options. So that was my big thing.
Okay, hopefully that answers your question okay. Just going to the last slide now. Thank you so much to everyone who came out tonight. We're so happy. We got some more participants this time, and we're really grateful that you came and spent the night with us for the hour. Sorry, we're going a couple minutes over time, but if you have any last minute questions, feel free to send them in the chat now, just while I'm quickly finishing up. Just wanted to remind everyone that we are having our next event on Wednesday, November 24th from 7 to 8 p.m. The link for this will be posted on our WiSE blog, which the link for is just on the bottom of the slide. As well, you can, we'll be sending out an email to all of our contacts with the passcode and the link as well. If you'd like to join our email list or get emails from us, please feel free to send a message in the chat or to contact us through our email wise.hso@ensoc.queensy.ca. You can just take a picture of this slide. It has 2 ways to contact us. Feel free to do that so that you can get the links to all our upcoming events. So this event will be, or the speed mentoring with high school outreach volunteers / Q&A about university STEM, etc., will be our last event for the fall. We also hope to put out some blog posts related to final exam study tips and final exam self-care. So be sure to keep checking out our blog. We have a lot of really great resources on there, such as in the events tab, you can watch our first event. We recorded that one as well. So if you want to watch that, learn more about STEM, the different fields, as well as meet our volunteers. On the blog, we also have a section for our mentors where you can read biographies about all of them, as well as find their contact info there. So we really do encourage you to reach out to them, ask any questions you have, if you're maybe interested in their programs, what it's like being in university, or even if you'd like some feedback on maybe an essay that you wrote or an application you're handing in, please feel free to reach out to any of us. We'd love to help you. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for tonight. We hope you enjoyed the presentation, and we hope you feel more prepared for the upcoming application season. Once again, feel free to contact us at any time. We hope you have a great night, and we hope to see you at our next event. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.